punches.
Your wife cheated on you because you lost sight of who you are as a man, as a husband.
No agenda.
There is no fear in this dojo.
This is No Hyperbole.
This is the best part of the week.
Here's the maestro, Mike Baum.
I am the smartest man alive.
All right, number 5, Kyle wasn't right. Even though one team or the other held a 5-0 lead in each of the first 4 games of this year's World Series, I thought it was a very solid product. You had a great story in the Phillies, who were left for dead at the end of May at 21-29, rallied to make the final wild-card spot when Mitch's Brewers raised the white flag at the trade deadline, and then went on to beat two top seeds in the National League before disposing of the Padres to make the World Series. Eventually, they would succumb to the best team in baseball, the Houston Astros, in 6 games. The Phillies fans stole the show. They set a record for merchandise sales, eclipsing the 2016 Chicago Cubs, and provided the best home field advantage in baseball since the '87 Minnesota Twins. The viewing experience was also enhanced by the tremendous job done by Joe Davis and John Smoltz calling the games. One favor the Padres did the viewers was to knock out the Dodgers, making it much more likely for Fox to choose Davis over Buck. And let's not forget the first no-hitter since Don Larsen's perfect game 66 years ago. I had very little to quibble about during the World Series, but Kyle Schwarber does make the list at number 5 with his at-bat in the 8th inning of Game 6. The Astros had rallied from a 1-0 deficit in the 6th inning to take a 4-1 lead. Schwarber faced Houston reliever Brian Abreu with 2 outs and no one on. The count was 1-2 when Schwarber decided to bunt. He fouled the pitch back and ended the inning. Now, bunting to third base to beat the shift may go the way of the dodo with Major League Baseball's new rules going into effect next season, but this was certainly a peculiar time with 2 strikes. Consider also Schwarber's 46 home runs during this season. And this was the 8th inning, not the 9th. I'd sure like my chances of cutting it to 4-2 with one swing of the bat with a power hitter up against trying to bunt with no margin for error. Number 4, the bloom is off Lafleur. The Packers had lost 4 consecutive games before heading into Sunday's get-right spot at the hapless 1-7 Detroit Lions. Despite losing on Sunday Night Football to the Bills, the Packers seemed to have found some rhythm to the running game, with Aaron Jones rushing for 132 yards on 20 carries. On the Packers' very first possession on Sunday, they marched to the Lions' 5-yard line on 12 plays and had first and goal when Aaron Rodgers' pass was tipped and intercepted. On the Packers' second possession, they had first and goal from the 1-yard line. No Aaron Jones. They handed off to A.J. Dillon for no gain, and then gave up on the running game. 2 incomplete passes later in the start of the second quarter. Would Lafleur take the field goal to have his first lead in 6 quarters? Of course not. Let's call a pass play where Rodgers has to throw against his body. Of course, the result, an interception. The Packers would fail again on 4th down before the first half ended and trailed 8-0 at the break, eventually falling 15-9 to drop to 3-6, 4.5 games behind the Vikings in the NFC North. Despite a banged-up receiving corps, the Packers passed the ball 43 times. Aaron Jones, off the performance in Buffalo, got only 9 carries compared to A.J. Dillon's 11. And despite outgaining the Lions 389 to 254 and controlling the ball for 35 minutes, Lafleur found a way to lose as the favorite for the 4th time in 5 games. Citizens of Green Bay, hasn't he earned his pink slip yet? Number 3, consistently inconsistent. Sunday's game in the Windy City became a shootout between the Dolphins and the Bears. The Dolphins prevailed thanks in large part to a pair of pass interference decisions in the 4th quarter. The first came with 11:22 left in the game. Miami faced 2nd and 10 from their own 18. Tua Tagovailoa's pass to Jalen Waddle was incomplete, but defensive pass interference was called on Bears safety Eddie Jackson. Jackson said the official who threw the flag said he didn't see Jackson play the ball, despite the fact that Jackson never looked at Waddle. That 47-yard penalty put the ball at the Bears' 35. The defense eventually stopped Miami on 4th and 1, but not before the Dolphins ran over 3.5 minutes off the clock. The second call, or non-call should I say, came with 1:35 left in the game. Bears quarterback Justin Fields threw a ball deep left to newly acquired wide receiver Chase Claypool. Despite being pulled down with both arms by Dolphins quarterback Keon Crossan, no pass interference was called. The Bears would have had the ball inside the Dolphins' 25 with 1.5 minutes left. Instead, they were stopped on 4th and 10, and the Dolphins win 35-32. Hall of Fame and Super Bowl winning coach Tony Dungy tweeted, Watching so many of these games comes down to one possession or play. It is really crazy how pass interference is called so inconsistently. Perhaps coaches should be allowed one blanket challenge in which the officials would review anything on the field, including pass interference, delay of game, false starts, face masks, roughing the passers. The only problem with that is Matt Eberflus might have used it on the Eddie Jackson defensive pass interference and not have it left for Claypool. Number 2, a glaring omission. The finalists for Major League Baseball season-long awards were announced this week, and one category contained a very glaring omission. The finalists for AL Cy Young are Justin Verlander, Dylan Cease, and Alek Manoah. Verlander, a two-time Cy Young winner, led the American League in wins at 18-4, ERA at 1.75, and WHIP at 0.83, and is the deserving favorite. Dylan Cease went 14-8 for the Sox and was second in ERA and strikeouts to Garrett Cole. Alek Manoah went 16-7 for the Blue Jays, third in ERA, fourth in WHIP. But where was Framber Valdez? He is one of only 2 pitchers in the top 10 in each of the following categories: wins, win percentage, ERA, WHIP, Ks, and innings pitched. Dylan Cease is the other. Valdez set a single-season record for consecutive quality starts, pitching 6+ innings and earning and yielding 3 or less earned runs, with 25 straight starts in which he went at least 6 innings, and led the American League in innings pitched. And while it did not factor in the voting, Valdez went 4-0 in his postseason starts, including winning Games 2 and deciding Game 6 in the World Series. I would have had Framber Valdez second on my ballot behind Verlander. Now, some have questioned Shohei Ohtani's absence as a finalist. The reality is that he was not in the top 20 in innings pitched in the American League, due in large part to his 6 days of rest that he required up until the Angels were completely out of playoff contention. Number 1, Saturdays in the Park. On Monday, Colts owner Jim Irsay fired head coach Frank Reich. The move was not unexpected. Who did he choose to replace Reich? That was unexpected. Did he promote someone from his own staff with NFL head coaching experience, like John Fox or Gus Bradley? Did he tab a promising up-and-comer like Bubba Vitrone? No. Instead, he named Colts longtime center and ESPN analyst Jeff Saturday as interim head coach. Saturday has 0 college or NFL coaching experience. He was, however, 4-7 in one season as a high school coach at a small Christian school north of Atlanta. Why would Irsay choose Saturday? Well, let's listen to the presser.
I'm glad he doesn't have any NFL experience. I'm glad he hasn't learned the fear that's in this league. That's because it's tough for all our coaches. They're afraid. They go to analytics, and it gets difficult. I mean, he doesn't have all that. He doesn't have that fear, and there was no other candidate. We were fortunate that he was available, and he has tons of experience.
First problem for Saturday is that no one on his staff has been a play caller. So he started interviewing members of the staff on Monday. He landed on passing game specialist / assistant quarterback's coach, Park Frazier. Frazier is reported to be among the leaders of the staff in the use of technology and data. But wait, didn't Irsay just send a shot across the bow at analytics? Is any of this really happening? A head coach with 0 experience, a play caller who has never called plays, a struggling offensive line, and overwhelmed second-year quarterback who went 0 for 14 on third downs last week in Foxborough. Say it ain't so.
There you go. Well done.
Yep.
Coaches are afraid. What is?
I'm glad that he has no experience.
I can't believe he's available.
I can't. Yeah.
Oh my
yeah.
God. Where do you begin?
We were lucky he was available.
Oh.
Visit VSiN.com to get current odds, listen for free, find showtimes, and download VSiN sports betting podcasts.